Season 3, Episode 12, Duck and Cover, Go Low. To PPE or not to PPE, asks Sarah. No matter the philosophy driving work practice, business is always tested at the pointy end of the law when the boundaries of work, health and safety are tested. The team debate the mandates for the use of personal protective equipment, PPE. Sarah and Alan argue the logic of context and circumstance driving the consideration. Trage assumes the role of the zealous prosecutor and exclaims that if the sign instructs wear PPE, well, one must comply. Do you always follow the rules, Trage? Just because they're written? Sarah teases and concedes that she is not one to often follow the rules because she hardly trusts most of the thought processes that engineered the rules. She challenges everything. Well, almost. Alan laments the use of hard hats when nothing is likely to fall from the sky, and Trage explains a case in which obesity saved a man's life. Yes, that's right. Saved a man's life in the absence of the correct PPE. The team carry the conversation into the milieu of the home office environment. Do you have a fire extinguisher and blanket at home? Go low, says Trage, who's always equipped with such home office provisions. Sarah admits that she is more familiar with the dodgeball movie, Dodge, Duck, Dive, Dip and Dodge. Thank you very much for proposing this topic, Dr. Elise Crawford of CQUniversity. Enjoy.
Yeah, willing and able. DJ Code Red, Saber. We're gonna get this started. Yeah. This is how we started it. Let's get started, 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 let's get started. Who's gonna start this? We're gonna start this.
Hello and welcome to the Why Work podcast series. You are listening to Trace Vitkovsky, Sarah Pizzell and Alan Girl.
Dr. Elise Crawford, and she and I are about to embark on a book about good work design, and she and Nectarios Keranikis, Dr. Nectarios, who I believe you both know quite well,
yeah.
And I have been working on papers about good work design. We just had something published in a conference proceedings with the Chartered Institute of Ergonomics and Human Factors, and a little excerpt in their magazine, The Ergonomist. Now, Elise is a clever cookie. Very clever cookie. And she's asked us to talk a little bit about personal protective equipment. Can controlling risks sometimes go too far? What are these boundaries of PPE? To PPE or not to PPE,
yes.
Right? Now, you had something you were talking about earlier on Summer Reflection. Hierarchy of controls, which again, are one way of looking at things, but might not be comprehensive enough in the system or not by agile enough to consider all the nuances of work rather than what performance is required. But there are some real fundamentals. You often tell me, Trage, that no matter what philosophy, ontology, discipline, practice, there's still going to be a test at the pointy end of law. Were you safe or not safe? Full stop. And a prosecutorial team will investigate this, no matter what thinking went in behind how you were managing systems. So I'm keen on this. So tell me about, now we've also been talking about distributed work and work from home, and these issues about PPE come up. Just the other day, on a webinar, a colleague had a safety share. Before we talked about...
Sorry to interrupt you, Sarah. Sorry, what PPE, what does that mean?
Oh, I said it in full. My very academic, good quality self said personal protective equipment, bracket, PPE.
Thank you.
Remember in season 1 we talked about that with male strippers? What PPE would they wear?
Yes, but it's all of these initials, these acronyms.
Acronyms,
and you
make them
always
accessible.
Have a go at me for that.
I'm going
to try my best to...
Wind it back. Listen, I spelled it out. Thanks.
Good.
Thanks for letting me know, though. No, catch me on. I'm teasing.
So engrossed
catch me on that. Personal protective equipment, all right, is your PPE. Thanks for asking. So there was a safety share, and a colleague talked about, before we went into in-depth technology, she just said, I just want to pause. You guys are all dialing in remotely, right? We're on our Zoom or Teams call or whatever system, Google. And has anybody got a fire blanket and a fire extinguisher at home? And I went, actually, I don't.
Do you though?
No, I don't. I'm going to order one. See, you do.
In each room.
She showed a colleague of hers.
I have one in the bedroom and one in the music room.
And do you have
one
drills?
Outside the barbie.
Do you have drills so people know at home how to use them?
Fire
Honestly.
drills. Oh, well, yeah, we've got...
Drills,
yeah,
regular drills. All your family knows how to use it if they
full
need it.
disclosure, apparently one of Renee's fears was the house catching on fire. She would ruminate at night. Not that there was a fire, but in her mind...
Past trauma.
Do you have her permission to reveal that?
Not yet, but it's okay.
Renee, we'll check on
yeah,
this. Okay.
I'll work on the consent aspect later, the NDA, and we'll work that out. No, full disclosure here, so in addition to the blanket, in addition to the little handheld...
I'm ordering one.
Yeah, we've got them.
A blanket.
No,
and a fire extinguisher,
handheld one,
a fire blanket.
What do you call them?
I don't have one at home.
Quell, that's the brand.
You can't go to work without being at a workplace, and now we're working from home. Do all your employees have a fire blanket and a fire extinguisher?
So obviously the smoke alarms is part of the
alarms.
building compliance. Yeah, but no.
Do we know they're functioning for all our employees who are working from
They
home?
do the test.
It's a really interesting point.
Well, okay, in the safety show, they showed the refrigerator blowing up, and there were two instances. Her friend and then another colleague where there was a start of a fire, but they had the fire blanket to stop it in time.
And you do the go low, go duck and cover. Oh, that's nuclear.
What? Tell me.
Go low. You know the little song, and you go into the low.
No, I didn't grow up.
See, I've
Tell
even
me.
got what about duck and cover?
Low.
Duck and cover post during the Cold War.
Duck and dive from Dodgeball movie. I know that.
No, duck and cover when the if there was the fear of a Soviet nuclear attack. Duck and cover. Well, this is go low, but. Again, see if you're into popular culture as much as I am.
So go low and?
Yeah, you just go low.
Get away from the smoke.
Yeah, get away from the smoke, that kind of stuff. But anyway,
so what drills do you do at home?
Yeah, the drills. So in addition to the equipment, we had a conversation about this, and we have next to the blanket and next to the little fire extinguisher a set of throw-over rung ladders. Yeah, the rope, like that you quickly...
You are climbing family. It is a climbing family.
And
is this so you can escape through a window?
Yeah.
Really?
And I'll show you this. Yeah, this is... again,
Really?
I didn't drive all this. It was a meeting of the minds, and it's in our bedroom, and there are, right outside of the windows, there's sort of that old Ashgrovian style windows. There's like a window seat thing. There are hooks, and there are two hooks, and the hooks are still there. So if there was a fire, we couldn't get out. We have the rung. And it's also the level of risk assessment here is that the hooks are deliberately put over, obviously, to access, but if you do have a bit of a fall and a stumble, you land on a bush. So we've even cushioned the potential for further. I have particularised
Have you timed it? Have you trialed it?
No, we haven't actually climbed down, but we've thrown the ladders. Yeah, we've hooked the...
Well, it's not easy to climb out of.
No, and I thought I don't want to risk falling without a fire.
This is safety equipment, not just PPE. Sorry, but I had to say that this really struck me as wow.
I don't know if the ladder's compliant, but my point is, it's going to be better than not having one. We've got it from Peppertown, like the kids'
How
place.
current is your first aid kit? Right, I've got one in the car. Do you have one also in the home, ready to go?
Yeah, we've got a big first aid box.
Fire equipment
for bee stings.
Yes, for bee stings.
Well, if we're asking people to work from home, you know, do we have the same provisions?
It should be wonderful to look into that and see whether or not you're actually required to have those things.
Well, I'm just saying there are electrical. We're no longer doing electrical testing like at the workplace. They were electrical testing on the workplace.
It's tagging. Here's the thing:
tag and test, but not at home.
Yeah, so it may or may not be required. But getting back to your prickly point, Sarah, if it's a legal question, it will be asked, just like you asked.
It can get tested if there's a fire.
I think you said pointy, not prickly. Yes, sorry, point.
So for everybody.
So what did Elise want? What
and Elise asked about PPE in the workplace and what happens. Can you go too far?
Yes.
So, you know, tell us about the one you were talking about.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, though, because I remember, in fact, the conference where I first saw you and I tried to meet you, but you were too famous, so I wasn't able to get near you.
Oh, you were in the back row.
Yeah, I just couldn't get anywhere near you.
Okay.
There were people saying, stand back.
Yeah.
Stand back,
this is
Sarah's presenting.
At an AIHS
there was
and Australian Institute.
Sort of push you away.
Oh, you said, you look too sus, mate.
Australian Institute of Health and Safety conference in Sydney.
And I remember it. It was a fantastic presentation.
The shadow walked in and it was Trage, the shadow of Trage.
Do you notice that the room goes quiet?
Oh, yeah, it was very commanding. It was like...
They go, hold on, hold your brace now, buckle in, we're in trouble, we're in trouble.
So I guess
what's this wild mouth going to say?
So I ditched that to watch this, and that was the time, but there was also a speaker...
But wait on, what's that got to do with PPE?
I'll tell you in a minute. A speaker at the same conference spoke before Sarah, but in another room, with respect to exactly what you're talking about in your colleague, and that is when you can overcook the whole PPE and other things and clutter. So he did a whole heap of research on OHS clutter. I don't mean clutter in the worksite mess, but clutter like how much is enough of warnings,
even
inductions,
things like
signage, clutter. And it really grabbed me, and that's an extension of what you're saying.
We need to ask workers if they're making workarounds, why? What's happening? What's not supporting their needs? So out on construction sites or roadwork sites or whatever, warehousing is another example. I see guys all the time that have their Stanley knives, and that's explained as a no-no in the workplace, and yet they just wait, take it out of the pocket, use it. They've got to break tape, open boxes, do whatever. They use it all the time. I see guys all the time who don't want to use gloves, and I can understand that. It can affect touch, tactile sensitivity. It can affect grasp. And
there's a huge range of gloves now, though.
Huge range of gloves, but in ergonomics, we often look at sometimes the gloves that are prescribed can reduce power loss of your grasp up to 20%. So did we reevaluate that task for strength and endurance capacities? Like some of this is just not considered, and we just tick the box and go PPE as though that's an intervention for the design of work. And what you were talking about lawn mowing, I think it was, Trish?
Well, yeah. In fact, here we are hypothesising about this, but I'm astounded in this day and age when, first of all, for all our listeners know this, I know it's trite, but it's worth repeating. PPE, in terms of the rung of the hierarchy of control, where is it?
It's almost the bottom.
Why is that?
If you're looking at a traditional hierarchy of control.
Yeah. Where is it? It's a lower order control, right?
Yeah.
It's a low rung.
It's a low
to my
rung.
latter example. It's at the bottom, right? Is it given?
Is it above or below administrative controls?
Here's the thing. Is it above or below? I would say they're both low.
They're
both low.
So they
they
talk
go
about
hand
the
in hand.
higher order, right? Of can you eliminate?
Correct.
Can you substitute? Can you re-engineer? Full stop. And then down the bottom are there behavioral administrative controls and PPE.
Who's gonna start this? We're gonna start this.
But it's just down. They're both
They're
down
both
low.
low. Where would you put it? Where would you put a set of ear
traditionally
plugs
it's down
before
below.
or above, or put on earplugs, or don't put the machine on unless you have earplugs? It's one half,
My
six
house
of the
is
other.
your
Mine's
house.
yours. My PPE admin.
It is the bottom
They
of
go
the
hand in
traditional
hand.
triangle of the hierarchy
now, I'm
of
saying this
control.
deliberately so some of our listeners might, they might have a passion for this lower order, and they might say, no, I would put goggles.
Yeah, but
don't
administrative
do that,
controls
Alan.
of training or changing the way people work
let's
and
just
hoping they
say-
comply.
I'm being provocative. Let's just say it's not even provocative. They're clustered at the bottom, right? They're at the bottom.
And yet we see a reliance on them.
I love them. And I would never start up my mower or my whippersnipper unless I've got my goggles, got my hat, slip, slop, slap. You name it, I do it. And,
But for friends in America, right?
yeah, tell them what slip, slop, slap is.
Slop, slap.
Can you sing it?
Oh, no.
Slip, slop,
I've got
slap.
a lisp right now.
Slip on a shirt, slap on sunscreen, and slop on a
I
hat.
had a weird
slap
migraine
on a
that
hat.
messed up my S's. I have
but
a
it's
lisp.
important
Say it
because
again.
I've done my fair share of exhaustion cases to know
Too
that
many S words.
slip, slop, slap. Slip on a shirt,
Slip on a shirt. Slop on a hat.
slop on some sunscreen,
And slap
on a hat.
Slap
Is that,
on
is
a
that
hat.
right?
I think so.
Alan?
I think
Or more
so.
or less.
But
You slip
essentially,
or slop.
you
Anyway,
either
you slip,
slip,
slopping, and
slap, or
slapping, right?
right,
You
right.
have a slip, slop, slap. You put on that cream. But then I put my audiologist, they're moulded to make sure that the tinnitus doesn't kick. So I've got all the gear, put it on, and my goggles, but really cool ones. They're sun visor ones.
And it's important.
I look like Bono.
What about things like welding, where the PPE is extremely important? So again, a static hierarchy of controls better be contextualized in a system of work. So sometimes it's more important than...
It's embedded. It's prescribed in it. It's not a lower rung thing. It's like an astronaut wearing a suit.
In healthcare too, you have to wear your surgical gloves, So in some instances, I think what I hear you saying is that would jump higher on that hierarchy of
it's part of
controls.
it. You just have to do it. You have to use it.
Bloodborne pathogens.
Correct.
But then
You
there's
kit
the
it up.
challenge of things like in ergonomics, you see this trend to looking at exoskeletons, but
Yeah.
I just go, well, hang on, that actually still falls in the category of PPE. And if there's an over-reliance on this, what else are we doing in the system of care that could improve and mitigate exposures to really awkward human tasks? Can you cobot, robot? Can you automate? Can you do something else?
Yeah, see, some of that PPE, like you're mentioning with that, and like whether it's health or whether it's the welding.
And on the moon
that's
too, right?
The moon, you
how
need an
much can be
astronaut, you need a
done?
helmet.
Drones, how much in workspaces? How much can be done robotically?
Yeah, so that PPE, put that aside. That is actually embedded in the prescription through the guidelines and the standards, the nature of the work. We're talking about just the casual, if you like.
So
When I say
casual
stuff that's on the sign
more
pursuant
routine
to
stuff.
1319 of 94. Stuff on the sign when you got your goggles, you got your boots, you got your, stuff.
Say what that is.
Yes, Australian Standard 1319 of 1994, which is a beautiful standard. It's one of my favourites.
It's
dedicated to the signage, illustrations, and it talks about this is a prescribed sign, the colour, the use, the font, all these other things, these glorious things about signage.
Okay.
Again, it's still lower order. So I'm talking about, shall I slip these gloves on? With I've got the knife on. We're not talking about abattoir works or meat works where
all right, some routine tasks and PPE
abattoir
prescribed.
works is interesting.
We've done a few of those.
Because they often wear chain mail or plate mail all the way up. But it's not that simple. Like you can put on a full, complete chainmail suit.
Yes.
But then you sweat, and then when you sweat, you get all sorts of skin conditions.
There's trade-offs.
Correct.
It's
Yeah,
not
there's
in good work. You've got to understand the trade-offs.
Yeah,
It is,
so,
but the new
context of
technologies.
use.
but in terms of Elise's point about PPE, yes, you can go too far. If you wore complete chainmail in Queensland, then you're going to get too hot.
Well,
you might pass out. You might
detectives and police officers, and even you remember back in the day when you had conductors on trams and buses and that kind of thing, and they would complain about the weight of their belts, their low back.
For good design, getting back to your domain, the introduction of titanium and really ultra thin titanium chainmail does reduce a lot of that, those issues you mentioned. But it's expensive. The area I had was all the Mergen and all the other meatworks, so we did a lot of prosecutions, Kingaroy, all the various piggeries and so on and so forth. There was one particular case where there was no mesh belt. Indeed, it was just an apron, and of course the 11 centimetre penetration into the fellow's belly could have been prevented if he had some chainmail around his waist. And what saved his life was...
Or a plate. They often wear plates too.
But unfortunately, he didn't have any of that. He just had a plastic apron. And you know what saved his life? Being obese. It was all the blubber. It actually didn't penetrate any vital organ because of his beer gut.
Seriously?
I'm very serious. It's a prosecution I did.
So you
very
know how,
serious.
All right, so
but isn't life wonderful?
Well, this
His
is
fat gut saved
that's
him.
what protected you.
It saved him. His employer should have given him a plastic mesh, but his beer gut saved him.
Well, it's
Isn't
funny
that
because
ironic?
we've talked about fat shaming in season 2, and there's
No
all
shame
this.
there.
There's all this.
No shame with the beer gut. It saved his life. 11 centimetres.
11
I haven't
centimetres.
thought of that case in 20 years. Wow.
I'm glad we opened those
did.
cobwebs, cleared those cobwebs,
Yeah,
opened up that corridor in that brain of yours.
There's no fat shaming there. In fact, beer gut. It saved his life.
Who's gonna start this? We're gonna start
At
this.
what is that? University of Michigan Transport Research Institute, I believe, and they do a lot of work on ingress and egress, getting in and out of vehicles, trucks, etc. And they do everything from looking at ground force reaction, a reaction plate when you step down out of the vehicle, why you should be facing the vehicle versus facing forward, the impact through your joints, all of this kind of stuff, really in-depth biomechanics. But what they found was that there are a lot of assumptions in health and well-being, that you must be lighter weight to be healthier at work. You must be within your BMI context of good weight. However, the larger operators that would get in and out of their trucks were more cautious and traveled slower, and the light, healthy, fit, they would face outward and jump because they didn't have any fear about it, right? So there's a behavioral change in the profile of that worker.
I'm going to keep my eye out for when those guys get over their ram cars.
They don't need to jump
Now,
out
are
of
they
them. They're
big
not
guys
quite
and
that
little
high.
guys
Oh, I don't
getting
know,
out of
they're
those
pretty
big
high.
cars? That's
They're
what I'm
pretty high.
talking about. Now, I gotta say though, I love riding in those. Those are so damn fun.
That's it.
Okay.
Anyway, here's one for Elise's question.
Okay.
Hard hats.
Yes.
Now, I often hear people complaining about wearing hard hats
They hate
when they
it.
work in an environment where nothing's going to fall on their
Nothing's
head.
happening. I've gone out and they're like, "Hey, put your hard hat." I'm like, "Oh, okay," but nothing around here is potentially
Look,
falling from the sky.
I'm going to add high vis
And
to that, the
equipment.
little high vis vests and hard hat. If that sign, that approved sign pursuant to Australian Standard 1319,
We're back to the sign.
if it says if it's on, it's got to stay on.
Okay.
And
Right.
indeed, the hard hat needs to stay, in my opinion.
Bro, it's okay. That's
Just keep
just
it on.
that's
Oh,
your
well, there you go. There's the
behavioral
prosecutor's
compliance,
view is
prosecutorial
keep it on.
view.
You have because
Now,
I'd be,
can you base that in law?
Now-
Is there a legislative basis for that?
where
Meeting
you can find law
standards.
about that? You must wear your hard hat.
Oh, well, there
it
you go.
doesn't
You
just-
don't have to wear it. Come on, it's too much
that's it.
PPE.
Don't
then-
tempt the audience. That's outrageous.
But then going back to examining,
Alan.
is it realistic? Boy who cried wolf, right? Is it necessary, or else people don't believe it when it really is necessary,
Yeah.
right?
You see?
No.
There are
I'm
alternatives.
going the other side.
Right.
Jerry, don't even you see that? That was
Boy who cried wolf.
reverse. Wind it
Yeah,
back.
you see?
Pause,
But
you see?
I can flip that.
I'm saying no. If you have a rule just for rule's sake, people
Yeah.
stop trusting it and believing it. And if you have a rule that's meaningful and useful and makes sense, people
Okay.
engage with it and will comply better.
I tell you
right?
about an episode in the block as part of that my research.
We're back to research and
A plumber was down
Reality
there.
TV.
Yeah, the plumber was down there doing something, and everyone, about half the people had hard hats, the others didn't, and it was on television. And they wanted to show the viewers, look, that they take OHS seriously. We saw a hammer fall. Mm-hmm. And just at that time where Foreman Keith was going to do an inspection, he looked around and it was in real time, which made it. So I know everything's through the tele-reel. It can be somewhat distorted. This wasn't.
No.
And he stopped.
No.
So he said, whoa, he goes, and that's why. And he went quite burlesque. So all of them had to get re-inducted. But that's an example
that's
of.
why what? He said that's why.
That's why you have to
That's
wear
why you
a
got to wear your
hard
hard
hat.
hat. There was a sign, and this is one of the things I picked up in my observational data was when it says hard hat, and then this thing happened, and I felt like saying, "See, Keith, you're right." So my point is, it's an example of getting back to your boy who cried wolf. Yeah, that one time, and that hammer, man, it was, as we know, gravity's pretty unkind when it hits you on the noggin. That hammer was moving.
That
And
one moment, right. So tell me about
that's
the
my
lawn
point.
mowing.
But
Tell me about the lawn
Yeah,
mowing.
so let's get back to the most basic. This case, and this is what beggars belief.
I just bought a new lawnmower. I gotta use it now.
electric?
Learn how to use it.
Electric?
It is.
I don't think it's a decibel issue there.
Battery kind
I
of
think
thing.
you're fine. I've got two.
We're
both.
talking about hearing, I think.
All right, I don't know where this.
So
Let's tell me where this is going.
It's interesting. I
I'm
only
sure I
mention
can
it.
damage myself in other ways with this damn lawnmower.
Well, I'm bringing it to the table because
Elise asked.
Elise asked. This is literally hot off the press. I read it about 2 days ago, and it
Tell me.
involved what I believe was a Slavic person with a name like Slave
Why do you keep finding Slavic
Pavlovsky.
cases? People
Just
who are
is my thing. I'm just into it because there's a rich body of law.
Or is there a stereotype that more Slavic people bring things to case law?
Good, hard,
Passionate,
blue-collar working
passionate people. Okay, go on, tell us.
But no, it's about a grounds person at a school. Nothing controversial about that. His job was to use the leaf blower, 90 decibels plus. That's loud.
That's loud.
We know that's loud.
Okay, now let's just
for
put
a long time.
Let's just put it in perspective because
Yeah, sure what his
sort of
job
a
was.
client, a quiet office room, maybe about 45.
Yeah.
Where
So
you
this
can
is
function well enough. Da da da.
this is what we would call noisy employment or noisy environment. This is a noisy area. His job was to blow leaves, mow the lawn, clean the toilets, pretty much what grounds people do, right? So he used this leaf blower a lot, and unfortunately, as a result of the sustained and constant use, and I should say he'd worked...
And it's not like a residential home where you might use the leaf blower for half an hour. He would have been doing an hour, 2 hours blowing on the leaf blower.
And that was part of the contention. His employer said, we didn't expect you to blow for that many hours, but he said, there are leaves and I need to do my job. Or words to that effect.
So if we're lawn mowing at home to
prolonged-
organise our home office area, right?
So 85 to 95 decibels, but he'd been doing this for like 16 years. And
What? So let's
Hearing
talk
loss.
yes, it's
hearing loss.
hearing loss.
And here's the challenge for most employers and for individuals that have symptoms, it's a cumulative, prolonged, over time experience of hearing loss. So if you change jobs, where did it start? Who's responsible? All these kinds of questions make it difficult for communicable diseases and chronic issues and cumulative health events.
Here's the big question. Did they consult with him?
And this is the thing. No.
So what? They never told him how to protect his hearing?
At one stage
there were
they
no
said...
headphones, earplugs, nothing?
At one stage they said, we had a planned inventory. We were aware of the Makita RBL 250 because we requisitioned this in 2011. That's
the lawnmower, to be clear?
The blower.
The blower, mate.
The mower. This was
the blower and a mower.
Yeah, the lot. And we assessed, and this is the part that I find very curious about, by hiding behind the audit checklists, by simply saying, we assess the part of a plant and equipment checklist as being used on the grounds in the car park, and we reported the noise as being 85 to 95. So by virtue of acknowledging that this thing existed...
And it was noisy.
That apparently that was it, job done.
Over 85 dBA, decibels, for extended periods can cause permanent hearing loss. But what's extended? What's your threshold tolerance versus somebody else, right?
Well, I think if it's
and what else do you do? Do you go to concerts? Do you go? What else are you doing to expose yourself to hearing loss?
The thing about hearing protection, it's like gloves. There's lots and lots of different types, and but this was a school, wasn't it?
It was a school, and he would use the blower 1 to 2 hours per day, 5 days a week. So the issue of contention was that his employer said, well, we didn't ask him to do that amount. We can see here is an example where PPE, or the right PPE, with the right amount of consultation and the right amount of, I guess, interest in the well-being and the welfare of the worker may have minimised easily.
You need to know. You need there must be some known risks at work. And this is where, in work design, it's more than co-design. So sometimes there's a lot of talk about we need co-design and consultation with workers. Absolutely. But sometimes if you ask workers, it'll be she'll be right, mate.
Yeah.
So there needs to be some science and evidence, and a design process is facilitated by someone who's very knowledgeable in the discipline of design. What are those processes? So it is a collaborative partnership, but it needs to be well informed.
They were not, and here's the catchphrase, getting back to your point about consultation, they were not regular attendees of the workplace. So notwithstanding the item...
Who? The lawnmower?
The employers. So they were not regular attendees. The evidence of the injured worker was preferred because his side of the story his version had the truth, because upon requisitioning the item and assessing it as being fit for purpose, they're done. And it's a good example of, we're monitoring the extent to which this person was or was not using PPE. Were you asking about just how loud it is, knowing this blaster has 85 to 90 decibels? Did you ask, how many hours are you doing
that
this?
exposure is over time.
Are you actually wearing the PPE?
And do you understand what the impact is? Does somebody even understand what hearing loss is, how it represents? Even if you're not aware, are other people saying, you're not hearing me? Are you getting feedback? And do you understand what the implications could be? Even with your family, how frustrated they become with you. So by educating people, they might make better informed decisions also. They need to have some health literacy.
Well, the argument that you said they raised, which was, we didn't ask him to do the job, that's a very hard argument to run.
How do you not know what somebody's doing at work?
Well, they should be monitoring.
He simply said this: I recall that some of the equipment I used would change whenever the employer and cleaning contract for the school I was working with would change. However, the blower I was using to clean the schoolyard at Willoware Public School, it's been the same for about the last 7 to 8 years. So, but the point is, his job's a groundsperson, and leaves scatter on the ground, and you blow the leaves away. No, there's no complexity to it. So whether you do it for 5 minutes or 1 hour, see, that level of specificity didn't go in. PPE and consult.
So a girlfriend of mine just sent me a text, and it says, guess what? Our washing machine short-circuited the house 100 times this weekend. But what I'm saying here is just that talk we just had a moment ago about any electrical issues, potential fires, that kind of thing, right? And here we are. I'm going to ask her, does she have a fire extinguisher and a fire blanket at home? She works from home all the time.
This is happening live.
Live,
Yes.
right now, hot off the press, just now, coincidentally.
See, PPE identified on safe work practices and safe operating procedures. Workers must be trained in the CLG-SWP, the model number, operating petrol blower.
Now, we're not speaking against one blower than any other blower.
No,
we're just
that's
saying,
loud, they're all
just to be
noisy,
clarified, just to
They're all very
clarify,
noisy.
it's not a piece of equipment we're dissecting, it's the practice.
All right, so in answer to Lisa's question, Trey says wear as much as possible. I say you don't have to wear it all the time.
And I say it's
And you say it
contextualized.
depends.
It's
Yeah.
contextualized by the nature of that work, and also if people are already making workarounds and refusing to use it, why? Is it making their job more difficult? Can that work be redesigned? So always look at design and use. There could be the intention for its use. How is it applied? Is it because they should use it and they don't have the education, awareness, or knowledge, or is it because it actually is problematic, like making their grip strength diminish, right? So you must have those agile systems of detection and action always in place. Think your waterfall project management and agile.
I'm with you. If the PPE has a purpose, then use it. And
If not, examine it.
if
I'm not saying don't, but just examine it.
but if you can't find a reason for having the PPE, well, maybe look a bit harder. But if you still can't find a reason for it, then is it really necessary?
Ask.
Trash would say yes.
Trash would say the sign
It's
says
the
wear
sign
it.
says.
You took the words out of my mouth. What if
Oh my gosh, I
both
would
of
be
you-
a rebel if I was a
sign.
teenager in your house. Oh, this would be challenging. I was the type, I snuck out of the window at home.
Did you have a rope ladder too?
Yeah, you borrow mine. That's
now
it.
I know what to do with that
Yeah.
rope ladder.
So
I was
are
a
you,
teenager and I'd sneak out.
Are you poo-pooing my sign obsession? So let me throw this back. So
It's behavioural based, man. I'm
you've
so
got
not there.
a sign, just like we've got a sign here that says no drinks.
Are you looking at my lemonade?
So
It's like American lemonade, so
Where
especially
does it say
Vietnamese.
no drinks? Where is it?
No food waste in bins.
Kanye says
Kanye says.
Yeah, but that's not saying no
What?
drinks.
yes. Read it.
No food waste in bins makes Kanye less sad.
Yeah, but that
He's
doesn't
a controversial
say no drinks.
character.
Which
That's a
is,
very confusing sign.
Yeah.
I think it's
Go
you
through
talk
it.
to your
I'm
bosses
going to
about
slurp
that.
my drink
it's a
then.
music room. We need to be grateful that we've got access to it. No, but so are you saying there's a sign?
I bet that sign doesn't pass the Australian standard.
Yeah,
it
your
there's no
home
way that'd be a
stand.
1319.
That's right, no
way.
instruction.
But look, there's a sign, and the sign's got your steel caps, your high vis, and your hard hat, and your goggles.
Do you listen to what everybody says just because they said it? And
Look.
do you trust the source? See, I never trust the source.
The
So this is what we're
law.
talking about. Who's got power?
And
Bare
if it-
minimum compliance is not always best
Okay,
practice.
all right. All right. No, we're saying
But
it's a sign.
signs, on the other hand, if there's a sign...
Signs.
See,
If it's a sign.
this is probably more helpful.
I see a
Two-part
sign.
sign.
Oh, and hold on. In your house, do you have signs?
Fire extinguisher sign.
No, it's just a conversation. This sign, all right. The sign is quite a detailed sign. First three images, it says this must be worn or observed, right? You got 1, 2, 3. And then the second part of the sign is when necessary.
How much
1,
do
2,
signs
3.
really inform behavior and motivate behavior, though? Just a sign. Like, there are so many other better ways of educating and making things real and useful and consulting
Clearly,
people.
it's very powerful. It's
It's powerful for trade. It's
visual.
We can use this, Alan. What signs?
need-
What
we need
behavior
a
do
whole
we
lot of
want?
signs.
Yeah,
We can
we
just
can
hold
hold
them
up
up.
the sign. I'm going to get action.
Stop in the name of love.
Treat me to chocolate. It's on the sign.
Sign. That's it. It's T-shirts. the
Yeah,
lot.
yeah, come on. It's stop in the name. Yeah.
There we go. That's what I want us to get out of him.
We're
All
gonna
right.
start this, we're gonna start this. Press play and plug in the microphone cable. Next up is the crew willing and able, satisfying your thirst. Come and clean on the verse, precise and rehearse.
We hope you enjoyed that episode of Why Work. You've been listening to Trage, Sarah and Alan. And if you'd like to know more about some of the things we've talked about today, please subscribe and we'd be more than happy to provide you with information and other things that may interest you. Please be aware that none of the matters we've talked about today should be construed as legal advice or any other type of advice. We're just here to talk about all things related to work. See you next time.
Who's gonna start this? We're gonna start this. Press play and plug in the microphone cable. Next up is the crew willing and able, satisfying your thirst. Come and clean on the verse, precise and rehearse. Toys are getting turfed, like time and never stop. One of the cleverest, gonna get to the top, like in climbing Everest. Never sinking, never stinking, always thinking. And on the microphone, definitely never drinking. Set to disarm and set off your alarm. The one with the microphone tattoo.